You can call your president any name you like. Nobody has the audacity. Nobody has the Selena tested mind. Nobody has the power to tell you not to call your president any name you wish to call him. In other words, you can call him Okbo, you can call him T-Pain, you can call him hunger spreader, you can call him somersault policy, economic, no be me talk am o, na comrade Shehu Sani na I talk am.
And the senator representing Borno South in the National Assembly, Mohammed Ali Ndume, has asked President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to sack more ministers who are underperforming to fast-track the implementation of the renewed hope agenda for the country. In a statement issued yesterday in Abuja, Ndume described the rejigging of the federal cabinet and the establishment of the Ministry of Regional Development to oversee all regional commissions in the country as a welcome development. President Tinubu on Wednesday reshuffled his cabinet by sacking 6 ministers and naming 7 others. The president also swapped the portfolios of 10 other ministers. Ndume, the former chief whip of the Senate, also called on President Tinubu to convene a national economic summit as part of efforts to proffer homegrown solutions to the economic situation in the country. Well, let's now turn to a former federal lawmaker, Senator Shehu Sani, to discuss the call by Senator Ali Ndume and the state of the nation as well.
Thank you for having me.
So, Senator Sani, what do you make of the cabinet shakeup? Was it enough? Are there some other underperforming ministries you might want to call out and that the president should be focusing his attention on?
Well, before then, it is important that the viewers understand the science and dynamics of appointment of ministers. When a president comes to office, constitutionally, he is enabled to appoint ministers, one from each state and then the ones representing the geopolitical zones. The first thing a sitting president does is to factor the ministers he is going to put into place. There are some who were appointed because of the role they played in the elections. There are some who are appointed because of their potential to contribute to the agenda of the government. And there are those who were appointed because of their track records in other fields. Now, when a government comes into place, and it has been in office for a certain period of time. Now, the output or the stewardship or the performance of each minister will now be seen and then be measured. That it is for the government in place, the president himself, to look at the buffet of the ministers and see the ones that have outlived their usefulness and see how he can bring in new energy and new life into his own administration, which is very necessary. It was easier, if you look at the history of it, it was easier for President Obasanjo to do that than subsequent government in place. But the call by Nigerians for a cabinet reshuffle is a patriotic one, because it means that they want the president to succeed, and he cannot do that without lieutenants, and in this respect, ministers that will live up to expectation and perform and advance the economic and social agenda of the government. So there was so much expectations, but the thought was that it's going to go far beyond. But I really can understand the problem and the dilemma which a sitting president do face. There are people who have made sacrifices and have brought you into office, and if they are not performing, you are now to take a stand, because even if it is about compensating them by appointment, they have been in office for 1 year and they should have other things to do. But the country must move forward. And if a government fails or performs, it's not about the minister, it's about the president. So if your name is on the line, your reputation is on the line, and history beckons. It is for the president to do the needful, to remove those who fail to perform or who are underperforming, and then replace them with those who will reflect the vision and also the expectations of Nigerians.
Now, Senator Nduma, also suggested that the president should convene a national economic summit, spearheaded by some notable individuals like Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala and Dr. Akinwumi Adesina. What are your thoughts on this?
That is a good idea. And when he talks of these two people, he's talking of technocrats that have proven beyond political boundaries and limitations to be figures that have made significant achievement in areas of their expertise and field. Now, performance mostly come from professionals, but professionals are not politicians. And when you are in a saddle of power, you will have to balance the political interests of your government and also the exigencies of you to perform. If you fill all your government with technocrats, then you will have a lot of fire to deal with, because fire which can only be quenched by politicians. And if you fill your government with politicians, you are likely going to be a government that is only interested in settling its political friends and not performing. So each way you go, there are problems associated with that, and you have to balance. So the idea that is being given about Akinwumi and Okonjo-Iweala is fine. But even within the country, we have capable hands, who have a lot to contribute in all aspects. And there are key ministries that we cannot simply afford to joke with. The administration has an agenda. It has an economic agenda, agenda on education, on infrastructure, on agriculture, on science and technology, on youth empowerment. I believe these are the basic fundamentals of the Renew Hope agenda. And these ministries cannot continue to be headed by people who are not performing. For example, even within the cabinet, you can see, to me, the works minister is doing a good job. We're having Lagos, Badagry, Sokoto, Lagos, Calabar Road going, and projects are also going. The health minister is doing good. The internal affairs minister is doing a good job with his youthfulness and energy and innovation he has been introducing. And this is what we see. Even in the areas of defense, we can see improvement in northern Nigeria. But when politics comes into play, a lot of things will naturally come into question. So I believe that if he has to play the political card, he also has to pay consideration that Nigerians expect more from him, and Nigerians want an action. They want action in the very critical and serious areas which needs people with experience, expertise, vision, and dedication for them to be able to deliver.
Well, Senator Ndume also called for the establishment of the Ministry of Regional Development to oversee the regional commissions of things within the country. What do you make of this?
Yes, the first regional commission we had was Niger Delta Development Commission. And then later we have the Northeastern Development Commission. But all the other 4 geopolitical zones, Northwest, North Central, Southeast, Southwest, now brought their own request for a development commission. Now, my issues is that it's a positive idea if we have regional development commission, but we should also put it into consideration that those regional commission will be duplicating the jobs of the federal ministry. If the Northwestern Development Commission has a water project, there is a need for it to synergize with Federal Ministry of Water Resources. If they have a road project in North Central, the North Central Project Commission has to synergize with the Federal Ministry of Works. And that those regional heads of those commissions will be like regional governors representing the president. So, in as much as we want regional commission, we should make sure that there should be no duplication of duty, because budgets will naturally be submitted to the National Assembly. All the regional development commission will present their budgets, and they have to see that there is synergy between what they are requesting in the budget and also what the federal ministries are requesting. These are challenges that will come before us, but we shouldn't take it into granted that the Niger Delta Development Commission was a serious commission set up to address the very crisis in Niger Delta, and it should not be taken like other commissions in the other regions. Yes, all other regions have their own challenges, but we shouldn't say that because there is Niger Delta Commission, so other commissions will also be in the same path. We have problem in Niger Delta. The cow that lays the golden egg is where we all milk. We should be very careful in that. So we should make sure that there is no duplication of duties and responsibilities.
Now, I'd like us to shift our attention, to the state of the nation. We know that last week the president made some moves to reduce the cost of governance by reducing ministers' convoy vehicles to 3. What are your thoughts on this? Is this enough? What else do you think can be done?
You see, I have listened to views and opinions and also comments, both online and offline, about reducing the cost of governance. Well, it is time for us to be realistic about this. You see, all this idea of reducing number of vehicles or reducing the amount of food to be eaten by people in office are simply cosmetics. They are superficial. Reducing the cost of governance comes in through the budget. If in the 2024 budget it has been stated that 10 billion naira is allocated to so-so places, 10 billion naira must be spent as long as the money is there. If you want to reduce the cost of governance, let's be seen in the budget document for next year, where you will have drastic allocation of money for members of National Assembly, drastic allocation of funds for drastic reduction of funds, reduction of funds for members of the executive and legislature, drastic cost-cutting measures. This should be documented, then people can see. But if you have a robust budget that allocates money to all sectors of government, and then you come out on TV or on radio or online, and then by mere statement and say, I've cut this, I've cut it. It is not there in the budget. So the budget is where the cost of governance can be reduced. So this idea of 3 cars and not 12 cars or 7 cars is just superficial. It doesn't, to me, it makes a symbolic sense to see a minister driving a car or 2. But fundamental reduction in the cost of cutting the cost of governance is done in the budget, and that is what people should see by the budget that will come for the 2025 season.
And I'm only asking you this because you have a heavy presence online, and I know you understand how the online individuals conduct themselves and the lingo that they use. The presidency yesterday, through their spokesperson, Bayo Onanuga, denounced the use of the T-Pain nickname that has so far been used to describe the president and the ways that individuals are dealing with the economic hardship within the country. What surprises you more, the presidency coming out to say something about something that could be overlooked, some could say, or are you more surprised by the level of desperation that Nigerians are facing, especially now as we get closer to the holiday period, a December period, where prices of things skyrocket normally, not to even talk about during these times of extreme inflation?
Well, you see, Nigeria is a democratic state, and debate, criticisms and even nicknaming is all within the ambits of democracy. People can call their president anything they want because he's a president. If you aspire for public office and you sit on the throne, you should be able to know that the crown is not all about flowers. Flowers is also about thorns, and then you have to carry it. The last president of this country, Buhari, was called Baba Goslu, and someone was even referring him to be someone from Sudan. Heaven did not fall. So if you call the president T-Pain, or he's the president, and he has a history of the struggle, and he should know that he should be able to accept criticism as he criticizes others when they are also in public office. And if people don't criticize and nickname the president, who else is supposed to be nicknamed? It should be. Everywhere in the world, when you have economic reforms, there are bound to be pains. But what is important is that when people make sacrifices, at the end of the day, people should be able to reap the benefit of the sacrifice they made. There was economic reform in Argentina, there was in Brazil, there was in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in Singapore. It came with a lot of pain because people were moving away from the life they used to another. But what is most important is that, and there is no president in the world that will implement a reform and become popular. But public opinion will change when people started seeing the fruit of what they have planted and the fruit of what they have suffered. That is when public opinion, you can't implement a reform that inflicts hardship, that denied people the basics, and that is painful for people to be applauding you. It never happened anywhere. It is the part of the risk you have to take if you have to change the political, economic, and social direction of a nation. And the only thing that is needed is that reform should come with a human face. Because if you are reforming the economy, and it's about the people, then you shouldn't reach a point where before the fruit comes, everyone has died. So it is important for a president, as he implements economic reforms, he should also pay consideration that people are suffering. And sacrifice should be seen to be across the board. If the people cannot pay their rent, they can't pay the school fees of their children, they cannot find food to eat, or they can't afford to buy food, and their life is terrible, and life is brutish and harsh, as Hussein said, well, it should be seen on the side of the leaders too. And the leaders should be seen to be making sacrifices. If leaders live luxurious life, and then they live a life of opulence or ostentation, which you can see, you can't tell the common people to make sacrifices. So it's important that sacrifices should be above board, because patriotism should not simply be for the poor. The rich, the powerful, and those holding position of power and authority should also be ready to make sacrifices.
Now, I'm wondering, can there actually be lasting economic reforms if there's no justice? I'm talking about the fuel subsidy removal. So many people agree that fuel subsidy had to go because a few cabal, or some cabal is holding the country hostage. A few people are benefiting from it. But this cabal, they've not been identified, they've not been punished. Instead, Nigerians are the ones, bearing the brunt of the action of this few. How well, will this reform resonate with Nigerians when they are paying for the sins of a few who have not been punished? What are your thoughts?
Well, you see, subsidy issues is as long as the history of Nigeria in the last 4 decades. People like me have always been in the forefront of the struggle against the removal of subsidy. But at a certain time, some of us start asking questions, who are actually the beneficiaries of this subsidy? I've never had anyone come into the TV and said, all these billions is being pumped to me, I'm the one who is benefiting from this subsidy. And the puzzle I still cannot understand is that if in Nigeria that is so richly blessed with crude oil can have such kind of difficulty, what if we don't have crude oil? What could have been our country. And what is the rocket science in Nigeria being able to refine its own petroleum products? And why has our refinery been able to work 30 to 40 years ago and they can't work today? These are all questions we need to answer. And if it is about the cabal, our government should go after the cabal and deal with the cabal and save people from all this suffering. But people should ask questions. When these subsidies were removed, where is the money going? In the past, like in other Abacha's government and the military, you'll see they have Petroleum Trust Fund, they have Shopee under Jonathan and other things. But in this era, the money goes to the states and the state governors. So it is for the state governors to be able to use the resources that has come into their own coffers to address the problem of hardship in the state and to be able to defend the policies which they are benefiting from. Apart from Kaduna governor and very few governors, I don't see anyone coming out openly to defend Tinubu, but they are the ones in the forefront of benefiting from the resources that are coming in. But I can see projects going on in many states. And where is the money coming from? Is the money coming from the accruals of this removal of petroleum subsidy? So they should be able to address the problem of poverty. Poverty used to be the North, the northern affair, but it's now becoming a national issue. So we should also understand that if you have people that are hungry, if you have people that are hopeless, if you have people that are homeless, if you have people that are facing this untold hardship and suffering, you simply have a time bomb that is going to be exploited for the future. All these protests that happened in the past will simply be a joke if this country now, there's a spark that will lead people to the street. So it is for the president, for the governors in the states too, to know that it's not simply about President Tinubu, it's about them. They shouldn't think that money should simply come to their coffers and they implement projects and become popular and someone is carrying the heat by the side. We want to see where these funds are being allocated. And one mistake that is being made now, if the petroleum subsidy is removed, the money should have targeted 3 areas at least, so that before even sharing it to the governors, let's target power. Once and for all, let's solve this problem. There will be no problem of national grid collapsing. Let's have even 36 grids in all the 36 states, so that if one crashes, another one will continue. But that has not been done. Let's see investment in education, where there will be no more people seeking admission and they are not getting it. Let's see investment in agriculture, so that our potentials of our country can be seen. But when you share money to the states and people tell you they are suffering and you are referring them to governors and the governors are not ready to take responsibility, then where are we? So sacrifices must be across board. Sacrifice must come with a timeline. Sacrifice must come with a reward. This is necessary if such sacrifices are worth doing.
Well said. And just before we let you go, and on a more macro level, I want to get your input on Nigeria's recent partnership with BRICS. It seems that worldwide there is a strong shift from the West. It seems like it's Russia and China versus the West. Developing countries are now lining up to be members of BRICS, and we see the members of the BRICS nations, and we can draw some conclusions from what they all stand for and what they're trying to get out of the partnership. What do you think we could benefit from, how we could get the most from such international partnerships, especially in these times with global turmoil at every corner?
You see, BRICS is a response to the Western economic dominance in a number of fields. The global economic power is shifting to China, shifting to India, and shifting to other countries that are not from the West. And they need to have an alternative economic platform and system that will enable fairness, brought the idea of BRICS. African countries have been subservient to World Bank and IMF for decades, and you cannot show one country to which a paradise has been created by IMF and World Bank. And people thought that they should have BRICS, and BRICS now is the alternative. And it is necessary because you democratize the economy of the world, and you give people also a different political path, economic path than the one that has been controlled by the West. Nigeria should fully apply to join BRICS. This our IMF and World Bank subservience is only leading us to slavery and suffering and not delivering anything. You can see these countries, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, South Korea. Which of these countries have become what they are because of their kowtowing to IMF and World Bank? None of them. So they had an in-house, in-country economic formula. They follow it to the letter and achieve what they are today. We are doing things that we're supposed to have done 20 years ago, which is very unfortunate. A nation of 220 million people. We're supposed to be a market. We're supposed to be a hub. We're supposed to be a power economically, but which we are not. So we can't continue to depend on institutions that have not been able to help other nations within our continent in the last 3 to 4 decades and think that a magic or miracle will come out of that. So BRIC partnership and BRIC membership is well recommended for Nigeria.
Shehu Sani, this former senator who is always a senator, has said that the president is our president, that nobody has the power, the capacity to tell us not to call the president any name we deem fit. That is, you can go ahead and call him T-Pain. This is the response to a recent call by the federal government urging Nigerians to stop calling President T-Pain. He said it is not right to be calling the president T-Pain because the president's intention is not to inflict pain on Nigerians. Hence, the call was necessary.